Oh, hey there, folks. Good morning, good Wednesday to you. Hope today finds you doing well. And folks, I don't have the shades on to look cool or anything like that. Just that the sun be so bright sometimes in the morning with these long days. The days are going to start getting shorter, but you know, sometimes that sun be kind of bright in my eyes, so that's why I got these on. But let me just get right into it. I wanted to talk about, okay, now we all understand that the Bible says that children are to obey and honor their parents. You know, the Bible says, you know, it was the first commandment with promise: children, obey your parents, honor your parents. And I totally agree with that. I don't care what the situation is in, what situation the child is in, the child should always honor their parents. And I've heard this all my life and whatever. Children, obey your parents. Children, honor your parents. And before I go any further, I am very open to criticism on this video, okay? Because I'm just trying to gain some understanding, because I hear children, obey your parents, children, honor your parents, you know, and I hear it all the time, and we should, you know, I have no problem with that. But what I don't hear is fathers, don't provoke your children to wrath. I don't hear that a lot. And the reason why I say this, and you know, and I'm doing this because I really want people to critique me on this, and I'm looking for some answers, because a lot of times I will see a parent abusing a child, you know, maybe in a video or something like that. And some other person will come up and say, and the child, you know, the child might be trying to defend themselves, whether it be verbal abuse or physical abuse. And the child doesn't know how to respond. The child, you know, wants to defend themselves from the verbal and the physical abuse. And someone, particularly a family member, will say, hey, don't rise up on your mama. Don't rise up on your daddy. That's still your mama. That's still your daddy. But, and the reason why I say this was because about a couple of months ago, I saw a video, and this kid was riling up on his mom. And when you saw it, you're like, why is this kid riding up on his mom? He needs to be ashamed of himself. But then when you saw the actions of the mother, then you're like, oh, okay. The mother was very abusive. She was very abusive, both physically and verbally. And she was like, come up on me, come on, I'll knock you out. And so the boy's aunt comes up, and I guess she's trying to save the child from the mother and everything. And he's trying to defend himself because his mom was about to, you know, she looked like she was gonna knock his lights out. And as aggressive as she was, well, I mean, she had a lot of what you call masculine energy. And this boy, I mean, I felt sorry for the boy when I realized what was going on. And I was like, you know, I agree with not rising up against your parents, and I agree with not talking back. You know, unfortunately, when I was coming up, I used to talk back to my folks, and it wasn't because I was trying to be rebellious, but it was sort of like what this kid was going through himself. I felt like I had to defend myself, and it's something I do regret. I do regret ever talking back to my folks, but you know, that's the past. But this kid, I mean, and I knew that if this kid had actually fought his mom would have ripped him limb from limb. She was that aggressive. No father around or anything. And so the aunt comes up and she's like trying to protect, she's trying to quote unquote rescue the boy, but she's sitting there saying, don't you do that to your mama. You know that's still your mama. And I'm sitting there like, okay, now this is kind of one-sided. You're saying, well, that's your mama, that's your mama. The mama is about to knock this boy into next week for probably something minor, probably. I don't know. But instead of saying, hey, sis, don't do this to your child. She's sitting there telling the child, that's still your mama, that's still your mama. Folks, and like I said, I am open to please criticize me in this video, because I'm kind of torn with this, because I know for no reason should a child be talking back or riling up on their parents, for no reason. But one thing we have to understand, that does not give parents the right to treat their children any kind of way. It doesn't give them that right. I can talk to you any kind of way, but you come up on me, I'm gonna knock you out. Nah, that's folks, that's not good parenting. That's not good parenting. Terrorizing your children is not a good way to parent. You are to raise your child. When you become a parent, and see, this is why I'm against all these people just going out and, you know, the women get pregnant, they become single parents and everything. And of course, there are certain situations where that's unavoidable, like if the husband dies or something like that. I understand that. But you just go out here and you just act careless, you get pregnant, now you're a single parent. And so being a single parent, you don't have that structure that's conducive to the development of that child. And some of us, and most of the time when it's a single parent, most of the time it's the woman who's a single parent, and they overparent. So instead of having a father in the house, the mother takes on the responsibility of being a father, which that is not biblical. I'll be honest with you, that is not biblical. You're supposed to have a father and a mother. But sometimes they overparent, they overcorrect. And I see people saying, yeah, Father's Day comes around, you know, single mothers, they deserve to celebrate Father's Day because they had to play the role of the father and the mother, but that's not God's intention. And Father's Day and Mother's Day is a man-made yada, 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 you know. I digress from that. But being a child obeying and honoring their parents, and I don't hear this talked about a lot. I don't hear this. I hear, you know, you need to obey your parents. And yeah, you need to obey your parents. But on the other hand, if you're going to be a parent, there's a level of responsibility that needs to be taken in raising that child. You don't just raise that child any old kind of way. You're there to raise, you're there to help in the development of that child for when they become an adult. Now, here's the problem with a lot of parents. A lot of parents haven't grown up. A lot of parents haven't reached a level of maturity to where they can become an effective parent. They don't understand that when they become a parent, this is a responsibility. They have to, you know, take responsibility. Say, okay, I got to make certain sacrifices because now this child is in my life. And I believe children are our most precious resource. Really, I do believe that. And we need to take it upon ourselves. Okay, I have a child. I brought a child into the world. I have to make certain sacrifices in order to raise this child in proper development. But a lot of parents don't do that. A lot of parents don't do that. And so because they're immature, they haven't fully developed in their brains. They just I guess you say, go with the flow, I'll do this whatever kind of way. They go upside their child's head for the least little things and whatever. They get frustrated. And here's another thing too, people. When you discipline your children, I'm all for spanking. I'm for spanking, but I'm not for going bloodthirsty about it. I'm all for it. But when you discipline your children, you don't do it out of frustration. And see, that's where that's the area where a lot of parents are coming from. Cause see, they're frustrated because, okay, now I got this extra burden of a child and everything. I'm not ready to take responsibility. I wish somebody else would, take this, but it's my child, so I'll do whatever, and everything like that. And then, something happens to frustrate them. The child might spill some milk on the table, and they're going all upside the child's head. Folks, that's not discipline. A good parent is going to teach their child, son, daughter, you're going to make mistakes. And when you make those mistakes, I might get frustrated or whatever, but I'm not going to go upside your head because this is a part of growing up. And too many parents, they expect their children, like when they instruct them, they expect them to get it at that one time, just one time. I'm just going to tell you one time. But the development of that child is an ongoing process. And a lot of people, they go out into this world, they do something careless, all of a sudden they're pregnant or whatever, they got the responsibility of a child, but they're not ready to get rid of their partying ways and going out and everything. And that's why you hear so many of these stories of children being left in a car for 8 hours while their mother goes into a casino, or children being left in a car because their mother went to work for 8 hours. That's why you hear these stories. Because they care more about their careers and whatever than they do about the raising of that child. Because it's something they're not prepared for. My wife works at a daycare, and the way some of these parents just drop their kids off at the daycare, it's their attitude is, it's the daycare's job or the school's job to teach my child. I got to go and make work. I got to go and, further my career or whatever. I got to go to a job and make money so I can pay the bills. That's all I'm here for. But, it's not my job to discipline my child. And you even have people, this is the thing that gets me. People will take time off from work, but they'll still drop the kids off at the daycare. Now, I understand there are times you might need, to step back and you might need a break from your kids and everything, but that's your child. And you're still sending your child to the daycare and you're home all day. The daycare already has your child 5 days a week. And here's your day off and you're still sending your child to the daycare. But you didn't realize that when this child came into your life, that's an awesome responsibility. And sometimes you're going to have to be like, okay, I know this is my time off and, I got this child and whatever. But you know what? I'm going to spend time with my child. But what we got going on today is a lot of lazy parenting. People have this thing called gentle parenting, which is, It's lazy parenting. It's lazy parenting. Your child cutting up a fool and everything, and you're not doing something to discipline that child and teach that child, hey, you're not going to do this here. But you're depending on somebody else to do the disciplining for your child. And there are parents out there, they'll let their children get by, whatever, and do, and then one day the frustration just reaches the boiling point, and they try to halfway kill their children. Folks, you're not called to kill your children. I hear some parents say, I'm gonna knock you out and all that. Folks, you don't talk to your kids like that. You don't talk to your kids like that. And I'm gonna be honest with you, when you spank your kids, when you discipline your kids, you need to take a step back, take a deep breath, calm yourself, then discipline them. That's how I see it. Now, I'm open to criticism on that. I really am. I've never raised kids, but I've been around enough kids to know that, folks, you need to take a step back, take a breath, then. But some of you all, when you discipline your kids, you do it out of anger, and then you say or do something that you should not have done. But then you correct it and say, well, that child had it coming, and then you got a bunch of people, and this is the thing that gets me, is people in the church. They'll say, yeah, that parent should have cracked his skull open and everything. And then, when the child talks about, yeah, I've been abused and everything, they think it's funny. I don't think that's funny. I don't think abusing a child is funny. And, in the church was like, yeah, you need to go upside his head. No, you need to take a step back. Like I said, I'm all for discipline. I'm all for spanking. I'm not the person who advocates for sparing the rod. No. Because some of these children you see out here, I wish they had a Father for a Day program. I'll be honest with you. Father for a Day program. Just pick any child you want, and, but I digress. But a child obeying and honoring their parents does not mean parents should go upside their kids' heads and treat them any old kind of way. And, one thing that gets me too is parents, they will go upside their child's head and just make that child's life a living hell. And then when the parent's birthday comes around, or some special day like Mother's Day or Father's Day and everything, they're expecting that child to give them a gift. Now, if a child goes ahead and gives you a gift out of the goodness of their heart, that's a good child. I'm just going to be straight up and honest. That is a great child. But I'm like this. If you're abusing your child, whether mentally, verbally, physically, or anything like that, and these special days come around and that child doesn't do anything, why are you expecting them to do something for you? Well, they need to show their appreciation. Well, they can't show their appreciation the other 365 days, 365 days of the week, of the year. They can't show their appreciation then. Why is it when your birthday comes up, they gotta show you over and above admiration on your birthday or Mother's Day or whatever day? They should be doing that anyway. That's why I'm not all for Mother's Day and Father's Day. And I have no problem with people celebrating that. I have no problem at all. So don't get me wrong on that. But why have a day set aside for children to honor their parents when they should be honoring them every day of the year? But if you're an abusive parent and your child doesn't do anything for you, of course, a lot of parents, they're self-righteous. They think, hey, you need to show me appreciation. One thing I learned over my life is when someone demands you to show them appreciation, that person is not to be appreciated. That's one thing that my life has taught me. A person who demands you to show them appreciation. That's not the time to show them appreciation. And I'm not saying children should never appreciate their parents. Just try to get at what I'm trying to say. But these special days come up and you've been verbally abusive to this child, you know, and then, you know, your day comes up and they don't do anything for you. I don't think you should be expecting that. If you will look at yourself and look at, and people say, well, they're doing the best they can. These parents are doing the best they can. And, you know, and we still need to show them appreciation and yada, 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 yada. Okay, well then, ask that parent if they were in that situation, would they enjoy the treatment that they're giving their children? Someone put that same type of treatment that they put on their children and put it on them. Would they appreciate it? They know they wouldn't. So don't give me this thing about, oh, they're doing the best they can. No, that's no excuse for going upside your child's head like that. And then you get furious when your birthday comes and your child doesn't give you a gift. Should they give you a gift? Yeah, I believe they should. Yeah. But you shouldn't be expecting it because you treated this child like dirt. Treated this child like they're less than human. And you think that, you know, you're going to force that child to show you appreciation. To be honest with you, you know, and like I said, I am open to criticism on this. And I know it sounds like it's hard for me to get my words together and whatever. But I don't think a parent should expect appreciation from a child that's being abused by that parent. And like I said, if the child goes ahead and just does it, you know, out of goodness of their heart, that's a good child. But you don't put bruises on that child. The child had to go to the hospital for stitches and you done broke their arm and everything and stuff like that. And then your birthday comes around and they're like, and you're like, oh, you better give me a gift. You better give me a gift. And I'm just going to say this too. I don't think parents need to be demanding their child give them a gift on their birthday. I don't. I really, that's just me. That's just me. And like I said, I'll receive any kind of correction or anything on that. But I don't think a parent should be like, all right, little Johnny, all right, little Susie, my birthday's coming up. You gonna give me a gift? You better give me a gift. You better give me a gift. I don't think parents should be doing that. I don't care how good a parent you are. I don't think parents should be doing that. Because they have 364 to 365 other days where they can show you appreciation. And see, this is the reason why, you know, and I don't have children. It's one of the low points of my life why I don't have children. But I told myself, if my birthday comes up and my children don't show appreciation on my birthday, it's not going to be a big deal to me. Because I can look at the other days and say, well, they show me appreciation on all the other days. So why should I be looking for appreciation on my birthday? And if your child comes and say, hey, happy birthday, daddy, happy birthday, mommy, I got you a gift, and boom, boom, boom. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's fine. That's fine. I'm not against that. I'm not against that. But I don't think we need to demand appreciation from our children on these special days or anything like that. The children should be shown appreciation. And yes, we need to teach children to honor their parents. Yes, we do. But having said that, that does not mean that you raise your children any old kind of way and expect a reward for it. Well, at least I put a roof over their head. I gave them food to eat and everything. But you constantly tore them down verbally. Called them stupid. You're not going to be worth nothing. Broke their leg because they didn't tie their shoe. You slapped them upside the head because they brought home a B- instead of an A+. Things like that. That's not good parenting, folks. That's not good parenting. A good parent, first of all, I believe there's a reason why a parent and patience begin with the same letter of the alphabet. Because in order to be a parent, you have to be patient. That's above everything. And your being patient is going to help you in the development of that child. You're going to realize this child is going to make mistakes. You're going to realize that your child is not going to bring home a good grade every time. Of course, you're going to teach your child to do the best they can, but even when they're trying to do the best they can, there are going to be mistakes. And a lot of parents don't understand that. It frustrates them when their child makes a mistake. You can't make a mistake. I'm going to give you this instruction one time and you better get it the first time. You don't get it the second time, I'm going upside your head. That's not being a good parent. And I don't understand why even in the churches, they don't talk about this. They don't talk about this. They always talk about, kids, you better honor your parents. You better obey your parents. Yeah, you should be doing that. But parents, you have the awesome responsibility to raise your kids. And it's not, I don't believe in this, it takes a village garbage. I don't believe in that. Because let's say you have a way that you're raising your child. You're raising your child in a way that you think is best and everything. But the village doesn't agree with you. Still takes a village? No, it takes two dedicated parents. Yes, you're going to invite people into your circle to help you in the raising of that child, so to speak. But it doesn't take a village to raise your child. I know that, just try to get where I'm coming from. The ultimate responsibility is on the parents, not the daycare, not the school. And I've said this on several occasions. When I was growing up, my parents had 2 sets of encyclopedias and other books of reference. They had a shelf just full of encyclopedias and books of reference. You need to make your home conducive to the education of your child, because if you're not going to be determined to be a good parent, you cannot expect the teachers to be determined to be good teachers to your kids. When the kids come home, you say, okay, Johnny, hang up your jacket, put your shoes in their right place. What do you have for homework? What's your homework? I don't believe in homework, but this is the world we live in. But you're going to sit down and we're going to study. We're going to sit down. We're going to do some learning. No video games. We're not going to play video games until the weekend. And we're going to learn something. I got some documentaries on YouTube you can watch and everything, stuff like that. That's part of being a parent. But a lot of parents, they just let the kids do whatever. Oh, little Johnny wants a video game system. Okay, let me go here. I'll get him a video game system. I'll get him a DVD player and all that. But then the kids grow up, and see, because the parents haven't grown up, the parents haven't matured. They raise immature kids. And this is why there are so many problems with our children today. Because parents don't want to be parents. They want to put that responsibility off on someone else when the major weight of responsibility is on the parent's shoulders. Well, what am I supposed to do? I feed them, I do this and everything. Be a parent. You got to realize you can't go out like you used to when you were single, when you had no kids. You can't do the same things that you wanted to do. You went out, you did something foolish. And now this child is in your life. This child is your responsibility. And don't even go into the abortion thing, I think abortion is the ultimate child abuse. Well, this mother, she found herself pregnant and you're going to force her to have that baby. She didn't have to lay down with that guy. She needed to take responsibility. And you're saying, oh, she needs to, yeah, if we let these children be born, they're going to grow up in poverty. And a lot of kids in poverty right now. I asked them, did they wish their parents aborted them? A lot of kids in poverty today. So you're saying we're supposed to kill them? That doesn't make sense. And see, once again, you're letting the parents absolve themselves of their responsibility. You're enabling parents to be bad parents. You're saying, okay, you're pregnant, but this is not your responsibility, so kill the kid. And basically, a lot of these parents, when the kids are born, and because they're not mature, they're basically putting them in a prolonged abortion, if you know what I mean. Going upside their heads and whatever and stuff like that. Why not put your kid up for adoption? I don't think it'll cost you anything to put your child up for adoption. But these are just things I wanted to put forth. And like I said, if you've heard anything that I said in this video, please give me some correction, help me to understand. But if a child is to honor their parents and to obey their parents, which they should be, then parents need to understand that I cannot just raise this child any old kind of way. Doing the best I can is not going to cut it. If you're going upside your child's head and breaking their arms and they have to go to the hospital for stitches and everything, that's not the best you can. That's not the best you can, okay? Raise your child according to the scriptures, because a lot of people, they ain't following the scriptures. Even people in the church ain't following the scriptures. But raise your child according to the scriptures. Take responsibility for your child and raise them the correct way. You don't need to go to school for that. It just takes a little common sense. But anyway, you all take care of yourselves out there. Stay safe. Watch out for this heat. Stay hydrated, whatever, and everything. I got to get to work and whatever. But, just consider what I was saying, and anything. I'm telling you, I am open to criticism on this. Please criticize me. But anyway, you all take care of yourselves. This is Vincent E. Brown. I'm signing off. Until the next time, I'll see you on The Rebound.